Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Together we'll chant verses 21 to 30, Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9.
तेतं भुक्त्वा स्वर्गलोकं विशालम् क्षीणे पुण्ये मर्त्यलोकं विशन्ति एवं त्रयी धर्ममनुप्रपन्नाः गतागतं कामकामा लभन्ते अनन्याश्चिन्तयन्तो मां ये जनाः पर्युपासते तेषां नित्याभियुक्तानां योगक्षेमं वहाम्यहम् येऽप्यन्यदेवता भक्ताः यजन्ते श्रद्धयान्विताः तेऽपि मामेव कौन्तेय यजन्त्यविधिपूर्वकम् अहं हि सर्वयज्ञानां भोक्ता च प्रभुरेव च न तु मामभिजानन्ति तत्त्वेनातश्च्यवन्ति ते यान्ति देवव्रता देवान् पितॄन्यान्ति पितृव्रताः भूतानि यान्ति भूतेज्याः यान्ति मद्याजिनोऽपि माम् पत्रं पुष्पं फलं तोयं यो मे भक्त्या प्रयच्छति तदहं भक्त्युपहृतम् अश्नामि प्रयतात्मनः यत्करोषि यदश्नासि यज्जुहोषि ददासि यत्तपस्यसि कौन्तेय तत्कुरुष्व मदर्पणम् शुभाशुभफलैरेवम् मोक्ष्यसे कर्मबन्धनैः सन्न्यासयोगयुक्तात्मा विमुक्तो मामुपैष्यसि समोऽहं सर्वभूतेषु न मे द्वेष्योऽस्ति न प्रियः ये भजन्ति तु मां भक्त्या मयि ते तेषु चाप्यहम् अपि चेत् सुदुराचारः भजते मामनन्यभाक् साधुरेव समन्तव्यः सम्यग्व्यवसितो हि सः.
So we had been discussing in the 21st verse about having enjoyed the joys of heaven and then returning to mortal life. and gaining this state of coming and going. Gata gatam. Gata means gone, agatam means come. So going and coming. Go to heaven, come back. Go to heaven, come back. This is not a mature existence. A mature existence is you are always in heaven, always in heaven, means always everything is. Nothing is knocking you off balance. Life will throw its challenges at you, but we don't have to be knocked off balance, right? So there are three types of actions that a human being is capable of performing. All other creatures are capable of performing only one. But human beings are capable of performing three types of actions. First type of action is action which comes out of, which is propelled by, which is fueled by, which is we burst into activity for a selfish reason. I want something and I make a grab for it. In selfish also, you can have selfish people who are impulsive. And somebody has a little bit of brains also, so they apply their brains and they just don't make a for it, but they go about it in a little more sensible manner. So the first type of action is I'm doing something that is in my welfare. Now, what effect that has on you is not my concern. I'm doing it for myself. This is a selfish action. Like, for instance, why do people go to work? To get a salary. And having gone there, what is it further they want? They want promotion. They want, incremental salaries. But the whole perspective with that is how do I maximize my gain? The vast majority of all of us fall in this category. All we are thinking about is how do I maximize my gain? Even if I come to class, I'm thinking about how do I maximize my gain? What is the minimum I can do and the maximum I can get? Oh, these classes are free, then we will come. This attitude is a selfish, self-centered attitude. It is free, so I'll take two. Suppose you have to pay for it, then I don't want it. So this attitude is a selfish, self-centered attitude. The second type of people are the unselfish people. They work with a very different kind of motivation. It is not that they do occasional charitable acts or occasional good acts. That's not what they do. They live their life like that. You can meet them in any circumstance, in any situation. They will continue to look at it from a wider perspective, from the perspective of the opposite person. But it's not about them. In their life, it's not about them. In everything, it's not about them. Not in one or two things. If people feel, okay, let us go and do volunteer work. Volunteer work, they say, is very good for you. If you do volunteer work, you will gain peace and happiness. And all this sort of thing they speak. So I want peace and happiness, so let me do volunteer work. This attitude is a selfish, self-centered attitude. I want peace, so I'm doing this. I want this, so I'm doing that. Versus a complete change of perception of life itself, which is unselfish at all times and with everybody. Such people are usually working for an ideal. So many people do volunteer work, right? Even when so many people are doing volunteer work, I mean, the whole thing runs because people are doing the volunteer work. But the big question in life is, why are you even doing that work? Is it like a hobby? Some people go for gardening, some go for carpentry, some go for things. Or is this what you believe your life is about? Is this just one of the many things that interest me? Or is this what I put myself behind it? This is it. So when that changes from doing volunteer work to having, can't hear properly. Is it better? Is it getting any better?
Yeah, this is better, Janki ji.
It's better.
Oh, okay. So have you missed everything I said so far?
No, just
No,
last
only the last sentence.
Oh, okay. So just to summarize, there are three types of ways in which people can act. The first one is selfish, where you look at everything from your selfish perspective. What am I getting out of it? I spend so much time here, I become peaceful. I say spend so much time here, I get money. I spend so much time there, and then everybody says how nice I am. Everything is about me. I answer a question in class so that everybody um, can see how smart I am. It's all about me, all and all and all about me. The bottom line is everything. If I chant, then in my head, even in my head, look how nicely I chant, or look how nicely I don't chant, how badly I chant. It's all about me. That I is going on all the time. Just won't quit. Even in class, you say, I have a question. If you have raised your hand, you have a question, right? If you're going to say something, obviously you're saying what you think. What else will you be saying? Everything is I. This kind of life is called a selfish, self-centered life. The second kind is where you see something in your life as greater importance than yourself. And you would be willing to sacrifice whatever it is for that greater thing, whatever greater thing you're saying. But you're seeing that as greater than yourself. It's not about doing volunteer work, because very many selfish people do volunteer work. It's not about doing volunteer work. It's about seeing something greater than yourself, more important than yourself. So that's the second type, where the whole perception on life has changed. These are, you often see these people as involved in some social work, because their whole life then becomes that. Or like artists, or what should I say, inventors, or scientists, or musicians, or they worship whatever they do. For them, that thing is worship. It's not just, oh, mujhe ye se ye milega, I'll get the salary, I'll get name, fame, reputation. It is their worship, really. And okay, so second kind. And then third kind is, first kind is propelled by selfish desires. Second kind is propelled by unselfish desires. And third kind has no desires at all whatsoever. No selfish, no unselfish. This is the state of a self-realized person. Only a self-realized person can perform selfless actions. The rest of us only do different degrees of unselfish action. Now, spiritual sadhaks, like real spiritual sadhaks, meaning those people who are trying to reach the self, who are doing whatever they're doing to reach the self, their actions are also called selfless actions, because there is no desire in their action for anything from the world, nothing physical, nothing emotional, nothing intellectual. They want nothing from the world. So since there is no desire there, they only want the self, which is not from this world. Those actions are also called desireless. There is no desire from the world whatsoever. Okay, so three types of action. Now, when you're in the first category, that means you are a selfish, self-centered person. What happens is you perform some good acts. You're a selfish person, but you do perform some good acts. When you perform these good acts, you get the benefit of happiness. People say, "Na, mujhe itni shanti milti hai, ye karne se ya wo karne se." That is a selfish person performing those particular acts whatever it could be. It could be going on Char Dham Yatra, it could be going to Mecca, Medina, it could be going to the Vatican, it could be doing social work, doing volunteer service, it could be whatever, studies, anything. When selfish people do some good acts, they feel a great sense of peace. Not they, we feel a great sense of peace. But what kind of peace do we get out of these actions? The peace comes and the peace goes. Heaven comes and heaven goes. That is what he's talking about in this verse. This coming and going of happiness, this coming and going of peace, of calmness, of beatitude. Like in class, we are all very philosophical. But this philosophical attitude comes and goes. In class, what all answers we will give? Fabulous answers. But as soon as class is over and the books are closed, Gaya. Gata gatam. Gata agatam. Going and coming, going and coming, going and coming. The trick of Vedanta is to be something, not to have this going and coming business happening. You go to the temple, that felt so nice. I went to a lecture, it was so nice. Okay, it was nice. No, I mean, nobody is denying the niceness, but this is not the state of a human being, this coming and going. And that is what he's decrying over here. Tetam bhuktva. All those who are studying Sanskrit, I hope you recognize the word bhuktva, having enjoyed. Tvanta. Tetam bhuktva swargalokam vishalam. Vishalam swargalokam. Huge swargalokam. The better your action is, the better your joy will be. The longer you do that action for, the more the peace it will generate. Shine punye martalokam vishanti. Shine punye is the Sati Saptami. Yada punya shinat bhavati. When the punya is over, tada, then martalokam vishanti. They martalokam vishanti. They enter back into, they re-enter into the mortal world. So you go back to your life of agitation, of bondage, of criticism, of grumbling, of irritation, of frustration. You go back to Shine punya. Shine punya means yadash apunya shina bhavati. When the punya gets over. Evam trai dharmam anuprapanna. In this manner, evam means thus, in this manner. Trai dharmam. Trai is the three Vedas. Anuprapanna. Following the three Vedas, Gatagatam kamala kama labanti. These people attain the state of going and coming. Why? Kama kami. They're always desiring something. Therefore, they're going and coming. Now, people read this verse from the Bhagavad Gita and say, oh, look, Gita is saying that the Vedas are not the authority. How can Gita say that the Vedas are not the authority? In times like this, you have to follow Sherlock Holmes. You remember Sherlock Holmes' famous line? I don't say elementary, please. What is Sherlock Holmes' famous line of how cases are solved? We can follow it to understand how these philosophical texts are solved. What's his famous line? Remember? No Sherlock Holmes fan over here. Let's see. Nobody into Sherlock Holmes? What's going on? I'm sure you've all read it.
Look closely.
Which one?
Look closely. Look carefully.
No, not over here.
Is it eliminate the possibilities and then whatever remains, however impossible, is the truth?
Very good. Who said it? Alka?
Alka?
Oh, very good. So you're obviously a Sherlock Holmes fan. Very nice. But I like you all to say, otherwise everybody else may not believe me. They'll say I'm making stuff up. So if you all have said, it's very good. Correct. When you eliminate the impossible, whatever remains, however probable, however improbable, is the truth. So, do you think Krishna would be criticizing the Vedas? Why do you even say that? That's obviously not true. He always refers to the Vedas. He always says, so have we heard from the great masters. Now, before Bhagavad Gita, what was there? Vedas only. So great masters have to refer to the Vedas. What else will they refer to? Then why does he say those people following the three Vedas? Because for many, many people, not only today, but from time immemorial, the important part of the Vedas was the,
Purva Mimamsa.
that's right, was the havans and the yagnas and the rituals. And all these rituals were designed for the purpose of
Fulfilling desires.
only fulfilling desires. Why do people do Satyanarayan Puja? No, sorry, that is Puranas. Why do people do havans? Because what is Putra? What was that one? Putra Prapti.
Putra Prapti.
Putra Kameshti Yagna.
Putra Kameshti, correct. They say only Kameshti. Putra Kama Ishta. The worship or the dearness for Putra. Putra Kameshti. Why do you do Ashwamedha Yagna? Because you want to be the conqueror of the world. Why are you doing all these yagnas? Kama Kamai. That's what he's drawing your attention to. Study of the Vedas requires Vedanta. Just doing all this Putra, let us do a yagna and then rain will come. Let us do a yagna and then get a child. Let us do a yagna and then we'll become prosperous. Let us do a yagna and this will happen and that will happen. Why are people going? Okay, so then of course the yagnas proved too expensive, so people didn't do them too much. And the Pauranic lifestyle of the Hindus started, where now we started going to temples, which was obviously a much cheaper way of doing the same thing, but you're doing exactly the same thing. What do you do when you go to a temple? Bhagwan ye dena or Bhagwan wo dena? Bhagwan ye dena, Bhagwan wo dena. Yeah, the other option is Bhagwan mere paas sab hai, usko protect karna. But Bhagwan, why should Bhagwan do all these things? Do it yourself, please. Can't you take care of your own things? He has enough things to take care of. Why are you giving him more work to do? If you want to do well in your exams, why don't you study? What is about this going to the temple? So they always have, in all worship, they seem to put this kama kami, the desiring of objects, not recognizing that, unfortunately, this is the way to agitation. This is not the way it is done. It is so tough. We are trying to start the Vedanta University. So we've got very, very senior academicians from our country to be on the advisory council, because we have to formulate it, right? We can't just get up one day and say we want a university. So we need all these experts. And they speak like experts because they are experts. And they are all excellent, all of them. And one of the questions they had is, when you say Vedanta, which Vedanta are you going to do? Are you going to do only Vedanta? Or there's so many Vedantas. There's Advaita Vedanta, Dvaita Vedanta, Vishishta Advaita. There is, what is this? So many Shuddha Advaita, so many versions of it. And so will you do all the veg versions or will you do only one? If you're doing only one, then which one? And then second question, why are we doing only Vedanta? There is Shad Darshan and Chaturdasha Vidya. So why are we not doing all the 6 versions? Darshan means philosophy. So there are 6 broad philosophies in India. And why are we not doing all 6? Why only one? And all these questions, which is what an academic expert will ask. Naturally so. How do you communicate that we don't want any of this stuff? What we want is the true knowledge of life and living. It's not a knowledge of Vedanta in its various, so-and-so said something and so-and-so something. We're not interested in all of that. So the whole purpose can get lost so easily. in one single second, the whole thing can be wiped off before you know what happened. Kama. The whole, how desire can slip in is the most, I don't know what, it's the most amazing thing of how and where desire can slip in and you won't even know it. But before you know, you're well off the path. It's a very frightening thing. So if you go about life like that, it won't work. It just won't work. And why is that not even clear? Because that's what all our predecessors have done, right? Hasn't everybody been doing that so far? Everybody, every single person, whether they are our peers or our predecessors, whether they are our colleagues or our ancestors, everybody has gone out in search of fulfilling their particular desire, whatever it may be. And nobody has found that elusive happiness. By their own admission, we are not saying they haven't found it. They themselves are saying they haven't found it. And then we have this other group of people, a very small group of people who say, okay, I know how to be happy and I will teach you. If you want to learn, of course. Know how productivity is attained. And this knowledge is available. And if you look at all of them, you find they have one common characteristic. They have no desire left. The only common characteristic. Other than everything else is different amongst them. Everything is different. Even if you look at unselfish people, you can see that their peace is a longer lasting peace than ours. It is less affected by the happenings of the world. We can see that, right? Okay, we don't know so many self-realized people, but in unselfish people, at least we can see that, no? It's the only method that has any chance of working. You try any other method, frustration is going to be the outcome. So human beings are capable of 3 types of actions. What are these 3 types of actions?
Selfish, unselfish, and selfless.
Selfish, unselfish, and selfless. Very good. So selfish actions done for myself. Unselfish actions done for others. Selfless actions not done for anything. Only for the purpose of realizing the self. If you are not yet realized, if you are realized, then that's the normal way of functioning. You don't function with any desire. Is that clear? Now, what is wrong with having selfish? What is the, not, I shouldn't say wrong also, because then you get into all this morality. We're not getting into morality. What is the issue with having selfish actions? Or selfish personality?
Be agitated.
Yeah, you'll attain the state of going and coming. So when things happen according to what you want, you're very happy. And when they don't happen according to what you want, you're not happy. When you perform selfish actions, as a selfish person, if you perform selfish actions, you get even more agitated. But even a selfish person performing some unselfish actions will find some peace. But when they find the peace, then they will keep doing that particular thing and keeping on getting and losing that particular happiness. Unselfish people, on the other hand, find a more stable happiness. It's not gata-gatam, not this coming and going business. That's what he's talking about in the Vedas. The whole important thing about the Vedas for most people is, what do I have to do? I mean, actually they state it like that. Some people go so far as to say Vedas means the yajnas. They actually say that. And Vedanta, that means the Upanishads or even maybe little Aranyakas, they don't even admit as part of the Vedas. They say only the karma kanda. Kanda means part. So only the karma kanda. That means the part which is pertaining to the way, to the yajnas and the rituals. That alone is the Vedas. They don't even admit to the Aranyakas and Vedanta being part of the Vedas. Vedanta means the Upanishads being part of the Vedas. Though everybody knows it is part of the Vedas, they say, oh, that's like an appendix or something. The most important part you have decided is not part of it. Why is that? Because it is through the rituals that you will get the rain, you will get the child, you will get the power, you will get the blah blah, whatever it is. So is this a verse clear? Te tam bhuktva. Te tam means that. Bhuktva, having enjoyed. Swargalokam vishalam. Vishala swargaloka. Shine punye. Yada punya. Shinaha bhavati. Tada. Martyalokam vishanti. Then they enter back into the Martyalokam, that is Mrityuloka, into this world of death. Death means change. Evam Trai Dharmam. Evam, in this manner, Trai Dharmam. Trai Dharmam are the Vedas, the three Vedas and their injunctions. So this should give you the clue, right? Injunctions of the three. What is injunctions? Can you tell me why does he say Trai Dharmam? He says Trai Dharma means the injunctions of the Vedas. So that indicates it is injunctions means what? What happened to y'all?
An authoritative warning.
Okay. They are the rules. They are telling you what to do or what not to do. Does Vedanta tell you what to do or not to do? No. Never tells you what to do or not to do. But injunctions means they are your rules, they are your regulations, they are the orders. Right? That indicates to you that we are now talking about the only time they can tell you to do something, whenever they tell you to do something, it automatically becomes a ritual. So you know now he's talking about all those ritualistic practices. Anuprapranaha, going by those practices, by those rituals. Gata gatam labhanti. They obtain gata gatam. Gata agatam, going and coming. Why do they obtain going and coming? Because it is kam, they are all become kama kami, desirer of some object. Clear? Did we start verse 22? Any problem with verse 21? I hope it is crystal clear.
Janki, I have a question.
Okay.
So then I'm a little confused about the three Vedas. Is it only ritual based, or is there more meaning to that?
I don't understand. What do you mean? What do you mean only ritual based? Are you aware that the Vedas contain 4 parts?
The 4 books you're talking about, or 4 parts?
4 parts.
No, Janki ji, not to my immediate.
Okay, don't feel so thing about it. It's fine. Vedas, have we been studying? I thought I didn't repeat it because I thought we've done it.
Yeah, Janki ji. The Rigved is the Samved is music, and you mean to say that you're talking about?
No. Does anyone else remember the 4 parts of the Vedas?
Yes, mantras, brahmanas, aranyakas, and Upanishads.
Very good. Who said that?
Sahu.
Okay. Sorry, since I'm on new device, I can't see. Why doesn't it come? When somebody speaks, surely it should come onto it, right? I don't know why it doesn't come. This electronics is always beyond my comprehension.
You need to choose the speaker view in your Zoom. If you choose a
speakers, because different speakers come, so I want to see them. And also those who have put their videos on, I want to see them. to know whether they're paying attention or they've gone to sleep or they're having some soup while they're listening. I have to see what's going on. I want the grid view. In my grid view, I have only 4, so I'd like to have many more. And one of it is taken by me, so that is useless. I can see only 3 people, which is sad.
Janki,
Okay,
are you
so-
on mobile?
Huh?
Are you on mobile phone?
No, I'm on this, what do you call this thing?
iPad.
Yeah. I have to use this because the physiotherapist came and said that the way I'm taking class is only aggravating what I have. No point claiming to be resting and doing this. So I got kicked off and I had to change to this. Okay, so 4 parts of the Vedas. What are the 4 parts? You're going to study all this, by the way, when you do the basic Vedanta course. But you just cover everything in the basic, because I think everybody has joined midway now. And so some of the things will just sound like it has no aage piche. So 4 Vedas. Okay, you know the 4 Vedas, right? Rig, Yajur, Sama, Atharva. 4 Vedas. These 4 Vedas are divided into 4 parts. The first part is the mantras. Mantras eulogize nature. So they are mantras to the various gods that are personifications of nature, like Indra, Agni, Varuna, Vishnu. Vishnu has very few suktas, but Agni has a lot of suktas, and so does Indra. Indra is the most powerful god of the Vedas. And Agni is the messenger. That's why you're going to feed him during the yajna. He's going to take your wishes up to the gods. Whatever. So the first part of every Veda, not of any one Veda, but of any Veda, begins with. So the first Veda, first hymn of the Rig Veda is the very famous one, which most people seem to know is Agni Mire Purohitam. If you've heard it, it begins with that. So that's the first Veda, first one. Though, of course, many scholars believe that it's not the oldest one, but let them debate all these things. So, first part is the mantras. What do these mantras do? They eulogize nature. They say how great Indra is. What does he wear? How does he behave? He's the great drinker of soma. He drinks a lot of soma. And what is his parakram? What all has he done? So these are the hymns which are eulogizing nature. How Indra released the waters. So all these hymns are eulogizing nature. You can understand, right? Indra and his thunderbolt is his weapon. So when the lightning comes and then the rain falls and all this, very beautifully described. And then there is beautiful descriptions of Usha, the dawn, who comes before the sun. So the sun is personified as a young boy, young yuvak, who, seeing the attractive Usha, is now following her. They're all very beautiful descriptions of nature, basically. And these are the mantras. Now, what do you do with these mantras? You use them in the ritual. So the ritual will tell you when you say which mantra, blah, blah, which god are you calling? What are you asking that god? So if you're calling Indra and you want him to do something for you, then you have to say, no, Indra, you're so great, you're this, you're that. So all those mantras are like that. Same thing, you go to the temple, you say, oh God, you are my mata, you are my pita, you are my everything. Why am I saying all this? Because I'm going to say, you're so great, my God. And now you give me this. The second portion is called the ritualism. It's the karma kanda. So the first part is the mantras. The second part is the brahmanas. It's the brahmanas are the max part of the Vedas. I mean, like the bulk of the Vedas, which you can quite understand, right? If they're going to tell you a ritual, then they have to describe the ritual. So it's going to take a lot of, you have to say a lot, right? So it's the thickest part. And since it's the thickest part, many people believe that, oh, if, like 80% of the Veda is the ritual, then ritual is the main part. They don't understand that as things subtleize, they become smaller, and as things grossify, they become larger. So the larger part is not the more important part, it's the smaller part which is the important part, because it's giving you everything in brief. So after rituals, you're expected to do those rituals, by the way. You do those rituals, and then you start becoming introverted. So you come to the third part of the Vedas, which is that you are now an introverted person. You start asking questions. Why am I doing this ritual? Why am I asking Indra to give me anything? What happened to my own hands? What happened to my own effort? And if I praise Indra, he'll give it to me. And if somebody else doesn't praise him, then he won't give it to him. However much work he does. I used to fight with my mother like this. She used to say, you have to pray to God before going to exam. So I could not make sense of that. I didn't understand. What is my prayer going to do? Is it that if I study an X amount and then I pray, then I will get better results than what I should be getting? And somebody else who may have studied the same results but didn't pray will get worse results? She used to say, where does this girl get these questions from? Pray quietly, don't ask stupid questions. I'm so irritated with everything. She just went, no, you have to pray before you go to exam. It is that simple. And I also did it because 9 out of 10 times I had not studied. So it was my last hope that, okay, I hope now at least something will come out of it. But I couldn't help think, how is this expected to work? So if I praise God, then he'll do my work. And somebody else who worked but didn't praise him, what happens to that child? Just not clear to me. So when you do the rituals, you start becoming introvert. Just wondering about things. Just start questioning. And as you become introverted, then you start getting the answers, which is the Upanishads. Now, the Upanishads are the thinnest part of the Vedas. So thin that people who are into studying of the Vedas never reach there only, because there's so much to read before that. So there are 4 parts: the mantras, the brahmanas, the aranyakas, and the Upanishads. Now, of these, the brahmanas are the biggest portion. And in fact, that's where the priests have a livelihood from, right? Because if you do the yajna, that's how the priest gets a livelihood. So obviously that is the part which is okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, Janki, we can hear you.
All right. So that is the part which gets maximum publicity. So is the other Vedas only rituals? No, it's made up these 4 parts. But the rituals are the most famous part because that's what's handled by the Pandits. And that's what people are interested in because that's how they're supposed to fulfill their desires. And now they're not very famous because people figured out that just by praying, you're not going to get anything. And also there are easier ways of praying, which is like go to Siddhi Vinayak and say, you're so great, Vinayak, please give me this. So simple, no, life is for people who believe that. Just go to God, say how great he is, and then he starts showering you the gifts. And if he doesn't shower you the gifts, then you say, I don't like him. He doesn't exist. He's no good. Pagalpanti hai, really. Is that clear, Aditi?
Yes, Janki, clear.
Did we start verse 22 or not?
No, Janki.
Okay, so here we go to one of the most famous verses of the Bhagavad Gita, the geometrical center of the Bhagavad Gita. Ananyas chintayanto mam ye jana paryupasate tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyaham. Ananyas chintayanto mam ye jana paryupasate Tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyaham ananyas chintayanto mam ananya chinta. If this verse is considered to be the fulcrum of the Bhagavad Gita, and that is why probably it is put as the central verse. This is the 350th verse of the Bhagavad Gita. You know that the Gita has got 700 verses. This is the central verse, and it's considered to be one of the most important verses because it has the very crux of the spiritual path. And the whole crux of the spiritual path, if you have to say the path in just one word or two words, one word in Sanskrit or two words in English, what are those words? What is the absolute crux of the path?
Yogan Kshema.
No.
Ananya Chinta.
Yes, but now say that in English.
Single pointed meditation.
Forever thinking of.
Yes, single pointed. Not meditation, just single point. Or forever thinking. Remember when we discussed about unselfishness, about having an ideal, it is not a hobby. It is something that when you're working for a cause, it is something that never leaves your mind. Then you're working for a cause. Otherwise, it is occasional activity. Yeah, not that is correct, but I mean, that's one of the methodologies. There are multiple methodologies. Oh, there's a question. Kindly clarify whether verse 21 speaks of unselfish actions or selfish actions. Oh, okay. So, Mr. Srinivasan, the verse talks about unselfish actions. But then our division was selfish, unselfish, selfless, right? But we took unselfish to mean those people who have an ideal in life. But selfish people, people who are generally selfish, we can perform some unselfish actions. Some friend asks us for some help, we can go give it. We are generally selfish, means generally we're doing everything for ourselves. But occasionally when we are called upon to do something, like, there was Cargill and everybody sent money for that or went and served for that, or there's some issue, we donate funds, we all donated for COVID. That doesn't make us unselfish people, but we did some unselfish action. So people who are performing these kind of unselfish actions attain peace, but they lose that peace too, because the personality is selfish. So he's drawing our attention to this idea that don't try to do this. That's not don't try to do it, but when you do this occasional good activity, you will get occasional happiness. That is your cause and effect relationship. So the better way is obviously just be a good person all the time, no? Be an unselfish person all the time. You'll always be happy. Why do you want it to come and go? Is that clear?
Thank you, Janki.
So coming to verse 22, the one single thing that determines a spiritual sadhana, absolutely the acid test, is your thought on God all the time. This refers to the third type of activity. If you are a selfish person, then you will be an agitated person. If you do unselfish activities as an ideal, as a goal in your life, then you will be in a steady state of calmness. But if you are a selfless person, what is a selfless person? That person wants only one thing out of life, and that is enlightenment or realization. If he wants only one thing out of life, then ananyas chintayanto mam. Anya, other. Ananya, no other. He will have no other thought, meaning no other interest, no other pursuit, no other, what should I say? Now, when I say no other interest, please don't think that, oh my God, what happens if he likes cricket? It's not that he doesn't like cricket. He will obviously have his personalities, right? He may like cricket, he may like music, he may, I don't know, whatever things. But he will use every aspect of his life as a stepping stone for realization. It's not that it's not like, oh, I'm a spiritual sadhak, I will do nothing but spiritual sadhana. That makes no sense. Many people take it like that. That makes no sense. What do you mean you will only do spiritual sadhana? What is that even supposed to mean? I don't understand. If you're doing sadhana, means you'll have to do some form of work. What work will you do? It will have to be your own swadharmic work. So how do you not do your own swadharmic work? And if your swadharma happens to be interest in 4 areas, then you will do 4 things, right? So that makes no sense. So when we say ananya chinta, we're not referring to the many fields of activity that we are involved in, but we are talking about the attitude you bring with you towards those fields that you are involved. We all have some occupation, we all have some family, some interests in life, some this and some that, so many things, right? Somebody wants gardening and somebody wants health and somebody wants music and whatever. So are we supposed to stop doing all these things and only read the Bhagavad Gita? If you stop doing all those things and only read the Bhagavad Gita, you will be reaching a mental asylum very soon. So please avoid all these funny interpretations. What it means is that no matter what you do in life, the reason you're doing it is to realize the self. Then you are a spiritual sadhana. For instance, now we are going to get together and make a university. We are calling it Vedanta University. So what is the primary characteristic we need? We are studying a university telling people that please study Vedanta, it will do you good. But for us, what is it? For us, isn't it just a stepping stone to realization? This becomes our karma yoga. We understand that there can be no better karma yoga, but this is only our karma yoga. And we will do it. I mean, we will do it as a big step, but we will attempt to do it. So we will either do it or we will die in the attempt. One of the two things has to happen. Either you're dead or it's up. If you're not dead, you work for it. And if you are dead, then it doesn't matter. So then you can give up. So keep working. That's it. In whatever fields you are engaged in, use that field as your particular path to self-realization. If you're looking after your children, use it as a path to self-realization. If you're going to sing, use it as a path to self-realization. If you're doing finances, managing your finances, use it as a path to realization. If you live your life like that, then he's referring to that ananyas chintayanto mam. Whatever is going on, his mind has never shifted from it, never ever. Which means that truly speaking, that is his goal. Because really, if you are interested in something, your mind will not shift from it. It tells you the first step, which is fix a goal. Is that your goal? Ananyas chintayanto. No other thought. Anya, you understand, other. Ananya, no other. Absolutely no other interest. So I'm looking after my child. Why am I looking after my child? To realize the self. I am going to play badminton. Why am I going to play badminton? To realize the self. I have a party to attend. Why am I going to that party? To attain self-realization. Never does that thought move. Now, if your thought has not moved, then your behavior in that place will be very different. Let's say you went to a party. Okay, let's say that if your husband is a corporate employee and part of his work involves him going to parties, and part of that work is that occasionally you also have to go with him for a party. Okay, but what is your interest in life? Realization. Now think of this wife who's accompanying her husband to a corporate event. She can go there for selfish reasons. My husband does well, I will get a better bracelet, diamond bracelet or something. My husband gets paid better, I can send my son to Harvard. She can go for entirely selfish reasons. Or she can go for unselfish reasons. She can go for the welfare of the people around her. Or she can go for self-realization. But whatever reason she goes for, it will have some impact on two things. On what she will do at the party, and number two, what she will feel at the party. What will be your experience of that party? If you go with the selfish purpose to that party, you will be very happy if people are all catering to your selfish purpose. They notice you, they say how pretty you are, they compliment your husband, very happy, or if they ignore you, or they don't say nice things about your husband, you're very unhappy. Right? So this is how it goes if you're a selfish person. If you're an unselfish person, you go to the party and you try to be of as much help as possible in making this thing be a better experience for everybody. So the difference is always in what is going on in our minds. The difference is never in what is happening in the external world. If you go everywhere with the idea that I will use this to purify myself, then if you go to that party with this idea, I will use this to purify myself, you will see what lacunas you have and you will deal with them. You will always be like equally friendly to everybody over there. If you see somebody who is sitting quietly in the corner or feeling ignored or something, you will go and talk to that person. You will not try always to be with the glamorous set just to show that you are in the glamorous set. Like these, in any situation, some few people look like the top of the pile, and everybody wants to be with those top of the pile people. It's a different view of life. That's all it is. Is Ananya Chinta clear? Anybody has a problem in understanding Ananya Chinta? It has got nothing to do with your work, because he's saying no other what? No other
Thought.
thought. Is he saying no other work? So people interpret that as don't do anything else but your sadhana. So what is your sadhana? Read Bhagavad Gita, meditate, sing bhajans. No. No other thought, not no other work. This comes about when we have the single desire for self-realization. So whatever you do, it is done for that. Kena Upanishad says, Bhuteshu Bhuteshu Vichitya Dhiraha Pretyasmad Lobhat Amritad Bhavan. Bhuteshu Bhuteshu Vichitya Dhiraha. In every experience, you think about it. Such people reach immortality. Spirituality is not a part-time pastime. It is not a balm for our troubles. I'm not explaining it in practical sense, Aditi. This is what it means. It is what it means. Anyone who interprets it as don't do anything else is just messing up. And that is why philosophy is necessary as a study. I could interpret this, and you could interpret this as don't do anything else. The Lord Himself said, don't do anything else. But when you're a philosopher, it becomes imperative for you to see how all the parts fit together. If you can't fit the parts together, then you don't have a philosophy. So it's very easy to say, okay, this verse means this. And then you don't even need to explain how, if it means this, it fits into everything else. Which is why systematic education on the subject is so necessary. Otherwise, you will pick it up and you read it, and then you come up with all fancy notions without ever having to ask, how does this work? Is the Bhagavad Gita written only for a person who will do nothing in life but sing bhajans and read the Bhagavad Gita? Is it written for such a person? Was it given to such a person? Then why would we interpret it like that? He's talking to Arjuna on the battlefield. And he's saying, have Ananya Chinta. And Arjuna will say, Arey, how can I have Ananya Chinta? I have Chinta about how to fight this war. Ananya Chinta is clear. Okay, so then we will continue. Oops, somebody